My name is Juan Francisco, and I'm a psychic medium and tarot card reader. I've always been curious about the supernatural, the paranormal, and psychic abilities, and I'm here to share my stories and interview folks who want to share their own stories with us. Let's get to it. Hey everybody, hope your week is going well so far. I do want to share a heads up for this podcast episode. This episode is going to talk about the topic of lost souls and what that means. And with that topic, I am going to delve a little bit into the subject of suicide. So I do want to share that heads up. And if you or someone you know struggles with thoughts of harming themselves, or just struggles and feels like you're in a really, really tough time right now, please call the suicide prevention hotline or text 988. And if you are not based in the United States and you need some kind of resource, you can go to findahelpline.com. So the National Suicide Lifeline is 988, call or text. And if you are international, you're looking for resources in your home country, go to findahelpline.com. With that, I want to start this episode, before we delve into the topic of the episode, just sharing some general updates about me, about my mediumship. I am back to doing readings, psychic card readings and mediumship readings. My books are open, and you can schedule a reading with me if you want to. And I'm also back to doing Instagram lives, and I may go back to doing some TikTok lives. But Instagram just feels like a home for me. It just feels so comfortable. And I did my first Instagram live in a very long time this past last week. And it was great. It was really wonderful to do readings for a few of you. And readings on Instagram are free. And it just gives people a taste of what my readings are like. And it gives you a preview of what kind of reading you can have if you book a reading with me. But I do believe that mediumship, psychic abilities, these things should be accessible and free to an extent. And I think doing Instagram lives and live free readings like that is a really wonderful way to make it either affordable or completely free for people who could never afford a reading. So as I turn off my heater, because I forgot to turn off my heater, excuse me. This is an episode when I'm still getting over congestion, apparently, because I just coughed. I feel very not sick, and it's been 2 or 3 weeks since I first got sick, and I've been on antibiotics, and I feel so much better. I'm sure I sound a little better than 2 episodes ago, maybe even last week's episode, although that was an interview, so it would have been 2 episodes ago. And thank goodness for antibiotics. Let me just say that. I'm feeling so much better, but there's still a lingering just discomfort in my airways. And I don't think I'm going to cough as much in this episode as I did 2 episodes ago. All right. This topic of lost souls is a topic that is there are many opinions involved. And there are many high emotions, rightfully so, many high and intense emotions involved in this topic. And I think it's talked about a lot in some ways and not talked about enough in other ways. I do feel that when it comes to talking about quote unquote lost souls, and I'm going to get into why I'm putting air quotes around that phrase, there has to be a lot of empathy in talking about it. There has to be a lot of mindfulness, because this is a very tough subject for many people who've lost loved ones in very tragic ways. And I don't treat this subject flippantly. I don't introduce it as a podcast topic just to philosophize. Although that is what we do here on this podcast. But I want to talk about it because I do want people to have hope. I want people to know that the way, and I'm going to start with this. I'm going to kind of start with the thesis statement instead of ending with it in this episode. I want people to know that the way their loved one pass, the way their loved ones pass or have passed before, does not dictate the state of their soul. I believe that our souls have complete free will. Our souls, I personally believe our souls do not get stuck. I believe our souls make a decision on where to stick around, but they don't get stuck by God. They are not being, I personally don't believe there are souls being punished. I just don't believe that. Do I believe in hell? I don't believe in hell, but I do believe that based on the priorities that a soul has, let's say, and I've used this example before, let's say I am somebody who is very materialistic and takes advantage of people. When I pass, perhaps my soul is I've so identified with that my soul, which is my highest self, I feel like I as a soul, even though it is my highest self, can so identify with my human experience of materialism, treating others with disrespect and taking advantage of them, that my soul just doesn't feel right and wants to stick around because it feels most comfortable around Juan's material possessions. It feels most comfortable being here on this earthly plane because it feels like it has to right a wrong. I don't know if that is the absolute truth. I am just conjecturing. I am just philosophizing. I don't know everything. I just personally, at this point in my life, and my mind can change in a year, 2, 3 years, I just refuse to believe that there is a greater force out there than us that is out to victimize us because we didn't lead a life that we were supposed to. Why give us free will as human beings in the first place? Why? There are a lot of philosophies surrounding why we have free will choice as humans. I mean, think of Adam and Eve eating the apple and they got themselves in trouble, so they weren't safe anymore after doing what God didn't tell them to do. But then I think, well, why did you have the tree of knowledge there to begin with to eat from? Why did you provide the apple in the garden? Why would you put something there and say, here's an apple tree, here's a tree, but don't eat from it? Like, why? What's the point? So that's a really great metaphor actually for how I feel about just the state of the soul, the states plural of the soul. And it just doesn't sit right with me to say that because of the way someone passed, let's say for example someone took their own life, unfortunately, I don't believe that they get punished for doing that. Do I believe that their soul then has a choice once it transitions in whether it wants to stay here and right wrongs, stay here and go through a part of its evolution, of their evolution? Yes, I believe that's possible. I recently heard a story. It was not a suicide. It was a friend of a friend who lost an ex partner of theirs, and this person told the person I know that his soul was sticking around. This ex partner's soul was sticking around and kind of making this person feel miserable. And I was just listening to the story. I did not give my 2 cents because I wasn't asked for my opinion. And I just thought, well, maybe this soul was just visiting you, but because you still had you human person still have unresolved resentment, unresolved trauma from that relationship. Maybe that sort of painted the experience of having that person's soul around you in your home after they passed. And this could easily sound like victim blaming somebody or blaming that person because their relationship was not great. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it seemed like this relationship to this ex-partner who passed when they were in a relationship was not a very healthy one. And they had been broken up for years after that, tried to be friends, I believe. And it seemed, just based on the way this person, via the person that I know, their accounting of this other person's experience with this ex-partner, seems like that other person still and it sounded like they were still getting over the pain from that relationship. And so maybe that painted how they experienced the person's soul. Again, I'm not saying I know everything, but I just find it very curious. Do I believe there are low energies out there? Do I believe that a soul that passes in a very sad way? And like I said, this person did not pass from self-harm. This person passed of a very, very bad illness. But do I believe that when a soul passes in a way that's very sad, that soul, it just doesn't sit right with me. I'm going to say it again, that because a soul passed, maybe they were alone when they passed, maybe they had a lot of pain when they passed, that soul then naturally should experience pain right after they die, right after they transition. I just don't understand why it has to be that way. And so therefore, I don't believe it happens that way. I believe that if a soul, I think the purpose of living on this planet, of living in this universe, is that we come to this universe to experience contrast. I believe Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh puts it that way. Maybe it was another book I read, that we come here to experience contrast. In the spirit world, all we are just love. We are God, capital G, God. We are love, capital L. That's all we know. That's all we are. And we come into these physical manifestations to experience contrast, to experience not love. And that was my doggy's squeaky toy activating. She is playing with her squeaky toy. We come to this universe to experience not love. Because in the experience of not love, we see just how great love is. We see how beautiful and different love is. We see how beautiful the light is when it shines in the dark. When all we know is light, we just know light. And so, if we are here to experience contrast, why would my experience with contrast dictate my experience in the afterlife, if it is the afterlife? I am now back in the afterlife. Now, if I am somebody, a human being who how do I put this? If I'm somebody who very much identifies with my contrast in my life, if I take what other people have said about me and I identify myself by what other people think of me, because that's what I was taught. And as an adult, I don't honor and love myself because of that. And I this is, no pun intended, is a horrible thing to say, but given the topic we're talking about, but saying this is the hill I'm going to die on, so to speak, using that metaphor. The hill I die on is that people think this of me, therefore I am this. That does a lot to the state of the soul within the human body. And so when I pass, maybe my soul is so used to that mental chatter, so used to, because I've said before that to an extent, thought is prayer. And if my mantra all the time in my body is I am not good enough because people say I'm not, and yet I have this being inside of me, this soul inside of me that knows that's not the truth, that soul transitions after death, I think it's up to that soul now. It's like if I'm the soul, just role playing a little bit, and I transition, it's like, oh, I was just this person, and this person really did not like themselves. But I know that I'm more worthy than that. And I know that I am love, but I was also just this person. So how can I figure this out? Like, I know I'm good enough. I know that I am God. I know I'm pure love. But man, this experience being in this body was really, really tiresome. It was a lot. And it's like a pool. Like, just I don't know if I'm making any sense, everybody, but because a part of me feels like our soul is our highest self, knows better than we do how worthy we are. But at the same time, souls evolve. I believe souls go through different lifetimes to evolve. So I believe our souls are perfect, but our souls also have a lot to learn. There's perfection in admitting that you have a lot to learn. It's a tough subject because I'm holding these two contradictions in my hands. One is the soul is perfect and it's the highest self. It knows all, is love, is God. On the other hand, I'm saying, well, the soul can decide if it had such an intense experience in the human body to stick around because it was so used to that experience. Those are two very contradictory things that I completely own up to. And I'm still figuring it out. But one thing I know for sure is, well, no for sure is a strong statement, but I believe that we have free will choice as souls. We can decide to stick around, we could decide to transition. And maybe someone in the spirit world will stick around a little longer after their death, after their passing, because there is a feeling of unfinished business, but not because they got stuck, because they're deciding to stick around. And also remember, there is no such thing as time on the other side. So if a soul decides to stick around and we feel like they're in their home, like, I don't know, for 9 months, 7 months, 2 years, to a soul, that could be 8 years, 9 years. Well, I just said 9 years, but it could be double the time. It could be divided by 9. It could be 1 year. 9 years can feel 1 year to the soul, or 9 years can feel like 2 minutes to the soul. I hear about these, I listen to these near-death experiences on YouTube, and it's so often that they say when they were under during surgery and they passed, the surgery was like 2-3 hours, but it felt like they were on the other side for a year. That's mind-boggling. So maybe the reverse can happen. Maybe something that feels like a split second in the physical world, is longer in the spirit world. Maybe something that feels like 3 months in the spirit world can feel like one day. Or something that can feel like 3 months in the physical world can feel like one day in the spirit world. It's weird. It's weird to think of non-existing time, time non-existing. And so there's so many big concepts. I think anyone who says that they know definitely how the spirit world works, unless they have died and come back, I don't know if I would believe when someone says they know how the spirit world works to a T. And even people who have died and come back, there are different ways that the spirit world has looked to people, to different people who have died and come back. So maybe the spirit world is really a reflection of our way of thinking as a human when we're in our human bodies. Maybe it's the spirit world shapes itself so that we, our soul that has just transitioned from this human body, sees things that human life, that human lifetime, that human body would find comfortable in the afterlife. Some people see Mother Mary, some people see Jesus, some people see another deity that they believe in. So maybe the universe, maybe God takes the form of whatever it is that this soul would feel comfortable first seeing when they transition, based on the person they just were. So what am I'm going on a tangent. I want to bring this back to lost souls, air quotes. The reason I put air quotes is because I don't know that. I can't say for sure that there are such things as lost souls, because at the risk of sounding really annoying, I don't believe souls get stuck. I believe some souls decide, they choose to stick around because there's something important to them based on the human life that they just experienced, something important to them that they want to address. Maybe they feel very tied to their material possessions because their human version of themselves was so materialistic, and they want to stick around because this soul learned from their human version to identify with material possessions, and therefore that soul has more lifetimes to go through to evolve, to learn how not to be materially possessive when they enter human form. When it comes to self-harm and suicide, I want to make some distinctions here because, and what I'm going to say may be a little bit controversial. I think that there are different definitions in our current US culture that I live in of what suicide means. To many people, someone self-harming and fatally self-harming themselves at an early age, to many people that's the same as somebody who is 78, 80 years old and could make the choice to live longer if they're plugged into machines with life support, and they consciously decide, if they're able to take themselves off of that support because it's the pain is too much. It's too much. This is not the life they want to live. I said I wouldn't cough, and here I am. Pardon me. So I think there are some folks out there who would put these two scenarios in the same bucket. And I want to say that regardless of what we're talking about here, how we define the word suicide, how we define self-harm, I don't believe that the way someone passes makes their soul lost. I don't believe it. I have personally channeled the souls of people who have passed in these ways, who have passed in other ways that were not their own doing, but very tragic. And I have personally never felt that a soul was in a bad place, in limbo, was lost, felt scared. I've never felt that in a reading, ever. And I'm open to that experience changing if spirit decides to show me that, but I haven't experienced that. A couple of times I've had souls tell my client through me that they are, like if they recently passed, that they are at peace with God. They are just in this holding space where they are learning some life lessons and they're growing. But it's not like they're in a prison. It's not like they're being tormented for the life they lived or the way they passed. I've never felt that before. So when it comes to suicide, and I want to be very careful talking about this because I am not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. I've never gone to medical school. And I have known people, not that I've been close to, but I have known of people who have unfortunately taken their own life. But I wasn't close to them. So this has not hit home for me, not close to home for me. So I want to acknowledge my biases. I want to acknowledge my lack of experience of knowing firsthand what this feels like to know somebody who has passed this way. I think I just really want to address how some psychic mediums talk about suicide. Because I have definitely heard some mediums tell clients on Instagram or maybe in TV shows that because of the way the person passed and transitioned, I think it does such an injustice to tell somebody, oh, this person, your brother is, he's stuck here. He died a very sad life, and he had a very sad death. I mean to say, his life ended in a very sad way, and so he's stuck here and he's learning a lesson. That's different than saying like he's with God and learning a lesson. Now, I'm not saying psychic mediums should lie, but I think that psychic mediums really need to be careful how they talk to somebody who lost their son, who lost their child to suicide. Why? How does it help someone to tell them, oh, your daughter is stuck. Your daughter is not with God right now. Like, I don't understand how that helps somebody. And if a psychic medium wholeheartedly believes that, again, they should be honest and truthful. But I just don't understand how even mentioning it does any help to that person who's in the reading with them. Why would you leave someone with that thought about their child, about their loved one? It's kind of like it's not, this is not the same thing, but when I've had readings where a soul was not a very nice person in the physical world, but the client is open to hearing from them, the soul will make me feel their personality as it was in the physical world. And then I can feel like, okay, this person was not very kind. They were pretty mean. And I've told clients in some of those scenarios something like, this soul still feels like they're sharing a lot of opinions, this soul, but they want to respect your space. They want to respect your experience. They want to apologize. And they're still learning on the other side how to be a better human, how to live a human life with more kindness. There's a way to work with spirit. And I think maybe this is the defining part of how spirit talks through mediums. I think the intention that a medium has and the way that a medium wants to work with spirit can so dictate how the medium interprets messages from spirit. If I'm a medium who already believes that someone who passes from suicide becomes a lost soul, I'm only going to interpret what spirit says to me through that lens. So this does rely a lot on belief, and that's a non-answer to this tricky challenge that I'm presenting: how to talk about people who've taken their own life when they come through in a reading. It really relies on the medium's belief system. And while I'm not here to change anyone's beliefs, I am here to highlight how important it is for mediums to be sensitive to what a client is feeling, while also being honest and transparent about what spirit is trying to say and wanting to say. But I think by being sensitive to the client's needs and where they're at, then by default, you will not want to say, you just you just wouldn't believe that spirit would come through to say, hey, I'm lost. It's just, I think it's the mindset, the intention in a reading with a psychic medium by a psychic medium says everything about how what kind of emotion, what kind of feeling the reading is going to leave the person with. So when it comes to suicide and self-harm, and I refuse to believe that we're put on this planet to experience challenges, to experience pain, only to be punished for having gone through that pain and not having, if I may say, coped with it as people think we should have, as humans think we should have. And it's not me saying that this is an invalid or valid way to pass. That's not what this is about. My opinion on self-harm and what that says about a person or what that says about their life, it doesn't, that my opinion does not matter because it's irrelevant. And as someone like myself who has struggled a lot with mental health, and I would say was in the very, very nascent, very, very beginning stages at one point in my life of going down this route. I'll just be very honest. It's hard to say that. I just refuse to believe that I would be punished because of how low I felt about myself, because of other conditions that were happening, like the people I grew up around not believing in me, not loving me completely for who I am unconditionally, um, not feeling uh, not feeling worthy enough because I wasn't taught to love myself and believe that I am worthy, regardless of people's opinions. Why would I be punished for having a coping mechanism or coping mechanisms that were not conducive to a fulfilling life? Why would I be punished for that, given the things that I was conditioned to believe about myself? And for other people, given the way they were born chemically, maybe they have a chemistry that makes it challenging to be positive, to go to the right coping mechanisms. There's so many factors, and to make blanket statements about the state of someone's soul after they pass, to me, does a huge injustice to what it is to be human, to what it is to live a life that is full of crap, full of beauty, full of all of it. It's so human life itself is so simple. The universe, although complex, is also simple in a way. It just works. But when you add free will choice, that makes human living feel very complicated sometimes. There's so many nuances. And why would someone be punished for having experienced the nuance that was provided to us as part of our free will choice? And I want to be very clear. I am not advocating. I do anything but advocate for anyone harming themselves. That's not what this is about. This is about showing compassion. This is about zooming out a bit and recognizing the struggles that happen in this human life that we live, and how each person will deal with those things in different ways based on what they know, based on what their human version of themselves, what it has learned in this life, what it has been told about themselves. And I think the spirit world understands. I know that the spirit world does not want a young person to hurt themselves. I do believe that a lot of the times, if not all the time, I don't even know what I'm saying, but I believe that when a person takes their own life and they're very young, or they have so much going for them, I do believe they have taken an action that should not have been taken. They shouldn't have done that. But that's also me judging something. And it's so hard because I want to say, like, this is not the route someone should go. But it's not my duty to say that to anybody. It's my duty just to listen. Just to listen. And to make sure that people feel loved and safe and that they have the support that they need. That's what's most important. It's so hard. It's so tricky. And this is why psychic mediums, unless they've been to school and have the degree and the certification, psychic mediums are not psychologists, and we should never, ever take on that role. I was hearing someone tell a story about they had a client who told them that they struggle with thoughts of suicide and self-harm. And this person told them, here, do some Buddhist chants with me. And this person said that the feeling left them. That's great. And this reader had very good intention, but this is where I am going to be judgmental. This reader should have said, I'm glad this helped, but also please call this number. Please go to a doctor. Please call this hotline. To take on the responsibility of someone's life when you're not certified, you are not equipped to do that, is very dangerous. And I do believe that self-love, self-empowerment is a solution to so many things. But when you involve brain chemistry, when you involve addiction, when you involve very deep trauma, that takes a lot of work. And that takes so much more deep diving into the soul, into your heart, into past trauma than just doing a chant. A chant does not solve that. So we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility as psychic mediums. We are not the solution. I have given very healing readings to people. But all my clients, at least mostly all of them, should know that I always say therapy saved my life. And if you need a professional, go see a professional. Because I am not the only solution. To me, that is just, look, I believe we're all pieces of God. I believe we are all God incarnate. But like I said, we come into this life to experience contrast, to experience not love, to experience a safe distance from God. So we know exactly what God feels like in the absence or in the distance from God, in the distance from love. With that in mind, to think of myself as the be-all, end-all solution for someone's mental illness, for someone's struggles, to be the sole solution. Like, I got the solution right here. It's going to make you feel better. It's very presumptuous, and it's screaming God complex to me. And that's not fair to that person who really could use the help. So back to what I was saying, to wrap this podcast up, and this is not an easy podcast to listen to, I acknowledge that, but I think it has to be talked about because I'm very concerned about psychic mediums leaving people with the thought that their loved one is not happy on the other side. And then the reading ends. Because I don't believe that. I believe the soul is always learning. Not to diminish the seriousness of this, but it's like when we go through school and education is good for our brains. It's good for us. It's good to learn. And sometimes it sucks to go through the process of learning. On the other side, sucks is a strong word, but I think you know what I mean. The soul goes through evolutions, and it can feel uncomfortable, maybe uncomfortable, but it's not negative. It's just growing pains. And some mediums may interpret that, those growing pains, the discomfort of the soul evolving, as something negative. So I think it really comes down to the ethics of a medium and the beliefs of a medium. And I just want to say to you that if you yourself have experienced, I'll say it again like I did at the beginning of the podcast, if you yourself have felt like you wanted to harm yourself, or you know someone who's wanted to harm themselves or does want to harm themselves, and if you feel that way now, please call 988. Please call 988. And if you're not in the United States, go to findahelpline.com. I take this topic really seriously. I'll be honest, I'm a little nervous about releasing it out there because it is a very tricky topic for many. And I think because it's so tricky, it deserves being talked about. Because the last thing I want to see is a psychic medium spewing very damaging things to people who have lost somebody, who have themselves experienced this kind of struggle. We are here to lift each other up. We are here to leave people feeling better than when they stepped into a reading. We're here, forget readings and psychics, just as humans, we are here to support each other. We're here to Give people hope. Why would you not want to do that? Why would you, and why would spirit not want to do that? Before I talk in circles, I'm going to end the podcast there. And I'm sitting here with the heaviness of this topic. And I'm just going to, if you feel comfortable, you can end the podcast now. But I am going to do a quick breathing meditation because it is a heavy topic. And you're welcome to join me. So just get comfortable. If you're walking, that's okay. Keep your eyes open. If you're driving, keep your eyes open, please. And let's just do 3 deep breaths. I'm going to do a visual exercise. 1, in through the nose, out the mouth. And just imagine a beam of white light going from the top of your head, through your third eye, the middle of your forehead, through your throat chakra, through the center of your chest where your heart is, the heart chakra, through your torso where your solar plexus and your sacral chakras are, your self-love, your self-esteem, your sense of creativity and security, down to your root chakra at the base of your spine, down your legs, helping you feel grounded and safe, and with the knowing that you are a being of light. Your experience is valid. Your feelings are valid. And you deserve to experience life in its fullest. You deserve to be loved, and you deserve to love. You deserve to seek the help that you need, to seek the help that you want, to seek the support that you want. You're not alone. You're not alone. There are people out there who want to help you. And there are people out there who appreciate your help too. You are not alone. You are part of a global community. There are like-minded people like you out there who want to connect with you, who are looking for people like you to connect with. One last deep breath before we end the podcast. And that was meant to be just a way to help ground ourselves after a heavy topic. But like I said, if you need those resources, 988, call or text in the U.S., findahelpline.com if you are international, outside the U.S. Sending you a lot of love, a lot of, hopefully, some moments of self-care for yourself. And I will see you on the next podcast. Thank you. If you have a question or topic you want me to cover on Third Eyesight, head to my website, juanfranciscospirit.com/contact, and send a message my way. If you really enjoyed this episode, leave a review wherever you listen. I'd really appreciate it.